Hey, good morning everyone. This is UC from iTradePrice. It is June 20th, around a little before 9 a.m. Eastern. So just let's get started and review some of the names that we regularly follow and trade. So QQQ, right? Let's just, always like to take a look at the higher time frame. So monthly view here, right? Still have a week and a half or so left in the monthly bar to complete. So from the monthly perspective, this is where we have the most touch point, like recently, right? 267 or something like that, right? So we've been kind of selling off all this month as a continuation of from the previous few months, still in a downtrend, technically speaking, right? If it gives up 266 at a monthly level, really the the bigger support is not until like 220s or something like that, right? But we do have some stops if we are supposed to be going there, right? At a weekly view, all right, so you can see we did sort of break this bear flag, right? We had this bullish week, did not see any follow through to the upside, and then we saw this third week as like as part of this 3-week pattern where you had the bullish week, no follow through, and then downside follow through to kind of close the week on the weaker side. And then we saw a gap down, tried to go back up, couldn't hold it, and then kind of closed towards the weaker side, still in a down channel. And now let's see how we open up on Monday. But if it looks like it wants to gap down, right? I mean, that's from what it looks like. From it looks that it wants to go touch this 267 at least. And if it breaks down that level, then 251.5 and then followed by 237, right? If I zoom out a little bit, this is where all those monthly touch points are. So that can be a magnet, at least on the short-term basis. And if we clearly break down below that, I think 237 is a major support level. 251, definitely 250 is a psychological support level. To be on the bullish side, really, it really needs to get back above 287, because that's where we had these had support for some time, for the past 4 to 5 weeks, right? And then once it closed below that, that became this resistance. So now it really need to get back above that, and then above this down channel to see if we can push it back towards 315, right? On the bullish side, that's what the chart looks like. Like if I show you the daily view as well, that's, you can clearly see the support in this area. And then once it gapped down, we tried to go back up above this level, couldn't do it, and then it gapped down and then just kind of went sideways, right, on Friday. So still weak structure, still lower lows, lower highs, unless we can clearly start to break away from that kind of a structure that keeps forming, prices will stay under pressure. Okay, all right. Okay, so now back to SPY monthly view, right? Similar to QQQ, right? 350 being the psychological number. If we break down below that, then the most touch points from the structure point of view are not until 322, right? So that can be a number to watch on the downside if we break down, right? On the weekly view, let's see. So still down channel, right? In the past month and a half or so, something like that, right? This was the only bullish week which did not see any upside follow through. In fact, 415 became an effective resistance, and then 384 area acted as support. Once we gapped down below that, we've stayed below, and then now we've kind of traded between 384 and 362 on a weekly level, because that's become sort of the bottom of the channel, right? So if I drill down into a daily view, series of gap downs, that just shows you how weak this market is. And any gap down we see, we don't see any significant bounce. And even on a green day, there's always a sort of a top wick. So unless, again, those kind of structures start to diminish, it's hard to become aggressively bullish, right? And gaps hold, right? This gap right? This one right here, and then this one right here. They don't get filled quickly, so structure still remains weak. Of course you can have a bounce, of course you can have a big bullish day, something like that, but that doesn't mean things have found bottom and we are like, it's all happy path, things like that, right? That doesn't mean that. So it can easily get rejected again from 384. But to start leaning bullish, really, I'm going to go on an aggressive side, really need to close above 384, then start targeting this lower, this downtrend line. And then once we break above that, 415, things like that, right? But if we break down, you already know the numbers on the downside. Okay, here's the Amazon chart. Weekly view again, weak chart, but the something to observe from price action perspective is that it has held this level, right, 3 times in the past month or so, correct? So now if we start building above that, above 109, right, that means this level sort of can be a triple bottom, and then we can start seeing the move to the upside, right? But again, we need to have some strong bullish bars in a daily time frame to really kind of convince that is going to happen, right? But otherwise, the structure still remains weak. This could very well be a bear flag here forming, right? Something like that, and then we see another move to the downside, right? Because no bullish day sees any upside follow through. We'll see what happens on Monday, but 109 is the recent resistance that bulls need to get above to target 115.8. It could be a head and shoulder kind of a pattern that wants to play out, with 115, 116 being the top of the right shoulder, right? And then it breaks on down further with 100 or 101.3 being the neckline. Again, just different scenarios that can play out, something that you can kind of keep an eye on, and just kind of keep an open mind to it. Okay, let's look at Apple. Weekly view, similar to other names, right, where we had these weekly bearish flags that broke down, and then we saw this last week's bar just kind of staying below its recent resistances, right, in all these tech names. So for Apple, that is 137. If he still wants to keep going down, then 123 is a next logical support level with a higher probability of seeing a bounce from that level. Okay, so that's sort of the downside level that you can target on further weakness. Okay, here is the chart of Tesla. Now let's just quickly take a look at the monthly view. So all these monthly bars, if you take a look at the chart, had these bounces from this area, right? 540 area, 541. So we're still a little bit far from that area, maybe about $100 or a little bit more than that. But we really need to break down below 620, because that's where we saw previous 2 weeks see some buyers show up. Sorry, monthly. We really need to beat that area down. So if I go into a weekly view, you'll see that's where we see these bounces from, right? We have almost 3 weeks of buying pressure that develops whenever the chart goes in that area, right? But this time we closed kind of actually towards the low side of this whole structure, right? And the upside did not see any follow through above 707. We got rejected there. So really need to get above 707 to start feeling a little neutral to bullish on this name. Otherwise, again, right, it remains weak, lower lows, lower highs on the weekly time frame. Daily view also looks weak. So again, 107 being the recent resistance, as that was sort of the support area, as you can see that. But really on a short term, lower time frame, let's actually take a look at maybe let's look at an hourly view. So what it looks like. So this is how the downtrend line is shaping up in the hourly view, right? If we get above 675, 676, sure, we can target the 707 as we had. That can be a reference or a pivot structure, because we have half of the price movement above that, and so far half of the price movement below that. So that can be a pivot. Once we get above that, 793 can be a target on a real good meaningful bounce. But if it does not, if it just remains below 676, gets weak, breaks down below 640, then 620 is definitely close. Breaks down 620, then 600 is just a matter of time that it will get broken, psychologically speaking. Get below that, 540 is a number to watch on the downside, on a clear breakdown from 620. Okay, this is a chart of NVDA weekly view. So on the journey to the upside, right, this was sort of the resistance area. Once we tried to break above that, couldn't do it, and then once it finally did, it never looked back and just kind of kept on going back up. And now we're back in that zone where we're testing this resistance turned support of 153, right? We have had maybe 3 to 4 weeks of touch points in the recent history. But if you look at this one, right, if you look at it just could be a bear flag playing out, right? This one like this. So we did see a breakdown. What it was not a really I'd say a decisive breakout where because it's like a non-trend bar, so it's sort of a doji looking, still bearish, right, from technical perspective, but just have to kind of be cautious and see if it does see a follow through to the downside below 153, or if we start seeing some buyers and it kind of pops back above 168 and wants to form a bullish bearish breakout failure setup, right, where the bears did not see any downside follow through. But from the looks of it, from the feels of the market, it does still heavy and looks like it wants to go and at least touch 135. But we'll see. Again, we'll just see how the price action forms on a daily basis, on a lower time frame, to give us clues, right? So far, lower lows, lower highs, right? All these lower highs are forming and keeps on breaking down further, right? So we'll see how last 5 days, just very closed price action, non-trend bars, bottom wicks, top wicks, kind of confusing. So kind of stuck between 168 and 153, but it did give us some lower time frame, intraday time frame type trades, which are always there. Okay. Here's a chart of Square. The bearish flagged, or bearish scenario playing out, right? We had this tightening price right here, something like that, where we had these bottom wicks showing some pressure being built on the upside, but we could not see any upside pop above 94, which would have given us some clue that the price wants higher. In fact, we did see a bearish breakdown, bearish trend bar. So this is effectively our downtrend line now. Now, if I go into a daily time frame, right, a series of lower lows, lower highs, still weak. On the Friday, we did see a weak open, but a bit of a decent close, still below the 50% mark of the previous day. So I would say really need to get above 61, 62 to kind of see target 65 and maybe higher than that a little bit. But breaking down from 56 again adds further downside pressure and is a continuation of the move down. Did seem a little stretched to the downside, so we can definitely make use of some upside to release some downside sort of oversold condition, but that doesn't mean that it will happen right away, so we just have to kind of evaluate it on a day-by-day basis. Okay, let's look at a couple of more. Let's look at Google. I'll start with weekly time frame, right? Not that bad looking, because this is not a whole lot of bearish bar, because it's yes, it has a top wick, still shows that there's some selling pressure, but really it just lacks, every time it trades to the downside, it lacks that downside pressure. That's how I'm seeing it. But if it wants to break down this channel, right, 1988 or 2000 can be a psychological number that it wants to kind of trade towards. If I look at a daily view, right, it's just gap downs, and then we don't see a quick snapback rally or anything like that, right? I mean, yes, we do see these bullish days, but nothing too impressive, right? Nothing like this where it shows you that this is a bullish trend bar and things are moving back up. And even if you see a bullish trend bar, it does not really take the price above its previous swing highs, right? We had this bullish trend bar, couldn't really get back above this swing high. I mean, you know, we did try it, but we had a top wick. So the price structure tells you a story. Right now, you know, we have this double bottom here right above 2100. If it breaks down that, you know, it can definitely gap down Monday or something, and then just see a move towards 2037 or 1988 as a higher level target. To get back up, 2250 has to be taken out by bulls, which is sort of the weekly high from previous week. And then we can see if it wants to get back above towards 2380 or something like that. Okay, one more chart. Let's do Meta, or actually want to do Shop as well. So daily view, again, still weak structure. Maybe it wants to go lower towards 137, 140. Weekly view, kind of forming a little, you know, falling wedge kind of a formation, right? Something like that, and then we'll see how it wants to trade, wants to upside, or if it wants to break down further below 137. But right now 175 is an effective resistance. Only if it gets back above that, we can target this downtrend line as the first touch, and then we'll see if it wants to break above that, or if it wants to, you know, have this 175 as a ceiling, and then it wants to go trade lower, break down 159 towards 137, go touch the lower end of this wedge, and then see some bounce, right? But that's sort of the structure that it's forming right now. Shop, sideways overall, right? Not really forming any bullish divergence or anything like that. Still overall weakish structure, right? Lower highs, you know, it's just, oops, that's a bad line. So it does look weak. It is holding this level, so we'll see if it wants to pop back up above 340, because that was the support for some time, and we have some touch points there as well. So it really needs to get back above 340, 341 to show some strength. Otherwise, it remains weak. And 281 to 264 can be the levels on the downside on further weakness, right? If I go into daily view, again, you can see no bullish days, see any upside follow through. So unless that can reverse, we start seeing some upside follow throughs. We can say that this is getting, you know, some traction on the upside. But right now, the structure, the price, the formation remains weak, and this could be a bearish flag, and then it just kind of wants to keep going down. Okay, so overall, things are still heavy. Inflation pressures, Federal Reserve trying to raise interest rate, things like that. So you know, unless or until we start seeing some price going up, holding that levels, holding lower, making higher lows, things like that, you know, breaking above downtrend lines on a higher time frame, you know, the bias still remains bearish. Okay, hope you guys like this week's video. If you have any comments, things like that, please reach out. Thank you.